AITA for sleeping with my friend's hall pass. I, 49F, have been friends with Sarah, 49F, for about 15 years. She's happily married with 2 kids. I'm amicably divorced with a kid. We met at our children's preschool. We've been there for each other through some tough times. Sarah has a huge crush on, I'll call him Jake, as long as I've known her. Jake is a popular, but not like stadium-filling musician. From what I can tell, he makes a living, has had popular albums, and has toured with A-listers, but he's not necessarily a household name. He's in his late 40s. Sarah has never met him. She's been to several of his concerts and owns a bunch of merch and considers Jake her hall pass. Again, she's married and would never actually cheat on her husband. Honestly, her crush never seemed off the rails to me. Like she'd joke about him wooing her through IG, but she didn't, like, stalk him. So let me say here, I would never, even when I was younger, date or even flirt with a guy a friend of mine was interested in. Fries before guys, friends before men. All that. It just wouldn't be cool. However, a few weeks ago, I randomly met Jake at a charity event. He was hired as the entertainment. We got to talking, and one thing led to another, and I ended up sleeping with him. It was a one-time thing, fun, and we both knew it was casual. At first, I thought it was a funny, wild story to share with Sarah. After all, it's not like she would ever actually be with him, right? But when I told her, she looked really hurt. She wasn't mad exactly, but she said something like, "Wow, I can't believe you actually did that." And she's been distant ever since. I didn't think the friends before men rule applied here because he was basically her movie star crush, not a real romantic prospect for her. But now I'm second-guessing everything. I feel awful for upsetting her, but I genuinely didn't think it was that big of a deal. Now I'm wondering, edit, Omfchi. No, it was not Dave Grohl. I'd never sleep with a married guy. That's just vile. Plus, correct me if I'm wrong, he was in fucking Nirvana and his Foo Fighters. Not exactly the type to play small corporate gigs. Second edit, obligatory can't believe this blew up and really enjoying the guesses. Got together with Sarah yesterday and will post a longer update after work. Things are going to be okay, Wes. Maybe a touch weird for a bit, but okay. Showing her this post helped because some people were able to express things we were individually thinking, but more articulately. And had a huge amount of laughs at people's guesses. Jake from State Farm, as if anyone but Flo could pull that. So thank you all for being a part of us figuring this out. 2 people did name the guy in a couple really low-rated comments, which kind of surprised me. Like I said, he's not a household name, and I thought the details I gave were enough for context, but broad enough to not nail it. Reddit, you guys are good. AITA for telling my sister's boyfriend to get out after he refused to eat the meal I cooked. Well, y'all, buckle up because things have escalated in a way I never expected. After my initial post, I figured things would calm down once my sister had time to cool off. Spoiler alert, they did not. So, the day after I told Steve to leave, my sister texts me saying they want to talk things through at a family dinner. I assumed it would be just the 3 of us, maybe at a neutral restaurant, where we could hash it out like adults. Nope. Instead, my sister invites my parents, my brother and Steve's parents, to this dinner at my parents' house, turning it into some kind of weird intervention. I show up thinking it'll just be a casual conversation. But the moment I walk in, Steve's mom, let's call her Carol, is already going off about how Steve has always had special dietary needs and how people who care about him should respect his boundaries. The woman acts like the guy has a life-threatening allergy, not a trendy diet. My mom is sitting there looking super uncomfortable, while my dad's just quietly sipping his beer, clearly wishing he were anywhere else. So Carol starts listing off Steve's dietary restrictions, and she's acting like I personally offended the whole keto community by serving pasta. Then, brace yourselves, Carol pulls out a folder. Yes, a literal folder, with printouts. She hands one to me, one to my mom, and one to my dad. I'm flipping through this thing, and it's full of Steve's dietary guidelines, suggested meal plans, and even a list of keto-friendly restaurants we could go to in the future. At this point, I'm doing everything I can not to laugh, but it gets worse. Steve pipes up and says he's willing to forgive me for disrespecting his lifestyle if I agree to host a redo dinner where I follow his dietary restrictions to the letter. He says this will prove I'm serious about making amends and respecting his needs going forward. I thought he was joking, but no, he was dead serious. He even pulled out his phone to show me some keto recipe apps that I might find helpful. I was in total shock. My sister, by the way, said absolutely nothing during all of this, just staring at her plate like she wanted to disappear. My mom, bless her, tries to smooth things over by suggesting we all just eat whatever we want when we're together. But Carol snaps. It's not that simple. She says that in their family, they all follow keto together, and that's why Steve is so passionate about it. At this point, I've had enough. I stood up and said, "Look, I'm not redoing the dinner. I'm not making anyone a special keto feast. If Steve can't eat what I cook, that's fine. But bringing his own meal to my dinner without even telling me was disrespectful, and I'm not apologizing for feeling that way." And then, this is where it gets absolutely bonkers. Steve's dad stands up, points at me, and says, "This is exactly why Steve doesn't trust women to understand him. They always make it about themselves." The whole room went silent. My dad finally spoke up, saying, "I think it's time for you all to leave," and started walking toward the door, basically escorting Steve's parents out. Steve and my sister stayed behind, but Steve was furious. He started yelling about how family should support each other, and then accused me of trying to sabotage their relationship because I'm jealous of what they have. At that point, I just walked out and left the whole mess behind. Here's the kicker, though. A couple of days later, my sister called me and told me she and Steve were taking a break because she needed time to think. Apparently, this whole keto fiasco was the last straw in a long list of controlling behavior from Steve. She didn't realize just how bad it was until the whole family saw it play out at dinner. She even told me that Steve had been trying to get her to follow his diet for months, but she was hiding snacks in her car just to get a break from all the keto madness. So now, Steve's gone full radio silent. My sister is staying with me for the time being, and I'm still getting passive-aggressive texts from Carol about how hurt Steve is and how he's just misunderstood. Honestly, I'm just glad my sister is finally seeing how controlling this guy was. TLDR. Steve's keto obsession led to a full-blown family intervention where his mom handed out dietary guidelines, and now my sister is taking a break from him because she realized how controlling he is.